In this video series, we're going to explore how we can productively use VSCode Neovim extension. This extension provides us with many features from Neovim editor that we can use directly inside VSCode. But firstly, before we begin, I would like to mention that this is not going to be the complete course on how to use Vim from scratch. We are only going to explore capabilities of this extension and how we can use Neovim inside Visual Studio Code. So you already have to know basics of Vim. And also I'm going to show my own Vim configuration file. So let's get started. First of all, we need to install Neovim editor itself. Let's open up the docs, and in here we have a bunch of options how to install Neovim on various operating systems. Since I'm using macOS, I'm going to use Homebrew Package Manager to install Neovim. So I'm gonna copy over this command and run it in the terminal. Right after the installation process is finished, to ensure that Neovim was properly installed, we can run the following command nvim and flag v. And if we're going to see Neovim version, that means Neovim was properly installed. The next step would be to install VSCode Neovim extension. So let's open up VSCode Extensions panel. In here search for VSCode Neovim extension and press button install. Right after the installation, this extension should be automatically activated. So let's open up any file and try to navigate by using keys L to navigate right and H to navigate left. And if it works, then everything is fine, extension is ready. But if it doesn't work for some reason, we can also specify the path to Neovim executable. First of all, let's find out the path to Vim executable by running the following command in the terminal, which nvim, and then we can copy this path and paste it into one of the settings with the name Neovim executable path. Since I'm using macOS, I'm gonna have to paste this path into this field, which says Darwin. But I'm not going to do this in here because the default value works good for me. Another thing to do to finish setup of this extension would be to copy over the following setting and paste it into VSCode configuration file. As it says in here, this setting is going to improve performance of this extension. So let's open up settings.json inside VSCode and paste the new configuration at the very bottom of this file and save the file. So at this point we have successfully installed VSCode Neovim extension and are ready to move on to the next lesson. All the links that we have used in this lesson will be in the video description. As we know, by using standard Vim keys to navigate right, we have to press L, and to navigate left, we have to press H. But sometimes on operating system macOS, pressing and holding motion keys may not work. So to enable key repetition on macOS, we can run the following command in the terminal, which will enable key repetition feature. And after this, key repetition feature should work. But also, if you're not fully satisfied with the speed, how cursor moves around, we can adjust the following settings that are inside of keyboard section of macOS settings. But for me, even if I'll set maximum value for both of these configuration options, the speed with which cursor moves around is not enough for me. So I'm going to run two additional commands inside terminal, which is going to make caret movements even faster. For the first setting, which is called InitialKeyRepeat, I'm going to specify value at 10. And for the other one, which is called KeyRepeat, I'm going to use value 1. And both of these commands, as well as the previous command, which enables key repetition feature, I'm going to leave in the video description. Also, to learn more about what each of these command does, you can read on this Stack Overflow page. And after we have run all these commands, we may need to restart the computer. So after this, if we're going to move around in the file once again, we're going to notice that caret this time moves much faster. Next, as you know, to quit insert mode in Vim, we can use escape key. But pressing escape key every time we want to quit insert mode is not really convenient. So what I usually do is I redefine caps lock key to act as escape key. On macOS, we can redefine this key inside keyboard settings. We have to search for modifier keys settings And inside this dialog, we can redefine several keys. As you can see, for caps lock key, I have chosen escape key. And now, anytime I'm going to press caps lock key, it is going to act as escape key. So which means to quit insert mode, I can easily press caps lock, which is much more convenient to press than escape, while holding all the fingers in the standard position. Also, there is another option to quit insert mode by pressing J key twice, which is also a pretty popular way to quit insert mode. So to enable this shortcut, we have to insert the following setting inside keybindings.json. This is a file where we redefine keyboard shortcuts inside VS Code. And by adding this chunk of code, now we're gonna be able to quit insert mode by pressing J key twice. Let's try it out. So now I'm going to activate insert mode by pressing I, and then if I'm gonna have to leave, I just need to press J twice. As you can see, it works. But I don't use this option to quit insert mode. I prefer using caps lock, so I'm gonna remove this setting from here. Let's continue reviewing VSCode Neovim extension in the next lesson. And once again, all the commands that we have run in this lesson will be in the video description. Let's continue reviewing VSCode Neovim extension. And another thing that I always do before start using Vim is I redefine motion keys, because for me it is much more convenient to press H, J, L and semicolon to move around the file, instead of pressing default motion keys that are H, J, K and L. But of course, this is only my personal preference. You can continue using default motion keys. And I'm just going to show the way how we can redefine default Vim bindings by using Vim configuration file. So first of all, we have to figure out the path to the default Vim configuration file. Let's open up Neovim docs. Let's go to user documentation. Right here, let's search for starting page, open it up, and in here, we're gonna have to search for initialization startup. And inside this section, we can find paths to the default Vim configuration file, depending on the operating system. And by the way, besides using Vim script to configure Vim, we can also use Lua syntax to configure Neovim. So I'm going to use Lua, which is more modern way to configure Vim. So as we can see, default Vim configuration file on macOS is stored inside .config and Vim folder, and it should be called init.lua. So I'm going to create the folder and Vim inside .config folder, and inside of nvim folder I'm going to create configuration file with the name init.lua. And then let's open up this file in your editor of choice. I'm of course going to use VS Code. Firstly, I'm going to add a helpful comment just to indicate what the key bindings we're going to redefine will be responsible for. And now to redefine keys by using Lua, we're gonna have to write the following vim.keymap.set, and as the first argument, this method accepts list of modes in which we would like to remap the key. So since I would like to navigate around in the normal mode as well as in visual mode when we are selecting text, I'm going to specify two modes in here, N, which is normal, and V, which is visual. The second argument will be the new key that we'd like to use, and the third argument will be the key that we are about to overwrite. So since I want to use J to navigate left, I'm going to use J instead of an H, which is a default key to navigate left. And the same thing I'm going to do with the rest of motion keys. So to navigate down, I'm going to use K instead of J. To navigate up, I'm going to use L instead of K. And finally, to navigate right, I'm going to use semicolon instead of L. After we save configuration file, in order for these changes to take effect, we also have to reload VS Code. Let's do so by running reload window command, or by manually quitting and reopening VS Code. So as we can see, new mappings work great. But in case for you it didn't work for some reason, We can also specify path to configuration file manually. For this, we have to open our VS Code settings, search for the setting with the name neovim init vim path. Here will be 3 differing settings for each operating system. And then we have to manually specify the path to the Vim configuration file in the corresponding input field, depending on your operating system. So that's it for this lesson, and let's continue modifying Vim configuration file in the next one. Link to the source code of this playlist will be in the video description. In Vim, as you may know, we can navigate to a particular symbol by firstly pressing F, and then the symbol we'd like to navigate to. So for example, if on this line I would like to jump to the comma, I would have to press firstly F and then comma. And then to navigate to the next occurrence of the comma, I would have to press semicolon. But in my case it doesn't work because earlier I have remapped semicolon key, so now it is used to navigate right. And so to bring back the functionality to navigate to the next occurrence of the corresponding symbol, when using key F or key T to navigate to the symbol that is right before the symbol we would like to navigate to, I'm going to assign new mappings, and in this case I'm only going to define this mapping for normal mode. And to navigate to the next occurrence of the corresponding symbol, instead of using semicolon key, I'm going to use single quote. So after reloading Visual Studio Code, let's try it out. I'm going to search for comma on this line by pressing F and then comma. As we can see, we have jumped to the first occurrence of the comma. And then if I'll press single quote, I will jump to the next occurrence of the comma, and so on. And the same goes with searching by using T key. When I press T and then comma, as we can see, we have just jumped to the previous symbol right before the comma. And by pressing single quote, we will be jumping to the previous symbols that are located right before the next occurrences of comma. Moving on, and for now, let's try to copy this word left by pressing Y, I, W, and then, for example, I would like to replace the word right with the text that is in the clipboard. So I would have to select this word first by pressing V, I, W, and then to paste the text from the clipboard, I'll press P. But then if I'm going to paste text from the clipboard once again, I would get not the previously copied word which is left, but the word we have just replaced. I do not prefer this behavior, and I'd rather keep text in the clipboard unchanged whenever we are replacing words. So I'm going to define another mapping in here. Let's also add a helpful comment. In this case, I'm going to assign this mapping only for visual mode, and we are going to rebind P to act as a capital P. So now, after reloading Visual Studio Code, if we'll once again try to copy word left by using Y, I, W, and then replace word right with the text inside the clipboard by pressing P, the text inside the clipboard will remain unchanged. So if we'll try to paste once again by pressing P, we're gonna get the previously copied text, which is word left, instead of the word right. The next mapping I'm going to rebind will be used as a redo key. So in Vim, by default, to go one step back, we have to press U, and to go one step forward, we have to press Ctrl R. But for me, it's not convenient to press Ctrl R, so I prefer to assign functionality of this shortcut to key capital U. And I'm only redefining this mapping in here for normal mode. As always, after we change configuration file, we have to reload VS Code for the changes to take effect. And now if we'll try, for example, to remove these 3 words, and then press U 3 times to get all these words back. And now, for example, I would like to go 3 steps forward. Instead of pressing Ctrl R, I can just press capital U. As we can see, it works. Moving on, if we'll try to use the search by pressing /, for example, let's find the word keymap. As we can see, all found words are highlighted. And in order to get rid of this highlighting, I would have to run command in the command line. as a reminder, to go into command mode in Vim, we have to press colon. So to get rid of the highlighting, we have to run command no-ahl-search, and as we can see, highlighting was removed. By running this command anytime manually, whenever we need to remove highlighting is not convenient. So I'm going to assign another mapping, which is going to remove the highlighting. So we're gonna define the mapping to clear search highlighting. And in this case, I'm going to make this mapping work only in normal mode. And to get rid of the highlighting, I'm going to use escape key. So as the third argument in here, we have to repeat all those actions that need to be executed to remove highlighting. So first of all, we have to enter the command mode by pressing colon, then execute the command with the name no-ahl-search and press enter, which is a carriage return symbol. We can specify it in here like this. Once again, let's reload Visual Studio Code and search for keymap word. And now if I'd like to get rid of this highlighting, I just have to press escape. And it worked. Repository with this configuration file will be in the video description. Let's continue modifying this file in the next lesson. In Vim there is one special key that we can use in many different bindings. And this key is called leader, and it is important to choose such leader key, which will be easy to press. Usually as a leader key, spacebar is used. So I'm also going to assign spacebar to act as a leader key. And then I'm going to define a couple of useful mappings that are going to use leader key. The first mapping will be used to quickly open up Vim configuration file. Let's use method cmd on the Vim object. And right here I'm going to type the following. First of all, I'm going to specify the mode where I'd like this binding to work. I'm only going to use this binding in the normal mode. And the binding will be the following. When I'm gonna press leader key, which is a spacebar in my case, and then C, I would like to open up Vim configuration file. And to open up Vim configuration file, we need to firstly go into command mode by pressing colon, then letter E, which means edit. And then I'm going to write the full path to my Vim configuration file, which is init.lua. And at the end, we'll have to press enter to open up this file. So after reloading VS Code, let's open up any file. And from anywhere in VS Code, when we're gonna press spacebar C, right away, we're gonna open up Vim configuration file. But please note that this binding is not going to work when we don't have any files opened. The next similar shortcut I'm going to assign will also be active only in normal mode, and this sequence of keys will be responsible for saving the file. So I'm going to use leader once again, and then letter S, and this is going to save the file. So I'm going to go to command mode by using colon, then use command W, which is write, and then press enter, and this way the file will be saved. Let's try it out. As always, we need to reload Visual Studio Code, and now let's try to modify this file and close it without saving. As we can see, we got the confirmation because we haven't saved changes. But now if I press spacebar S, we don't get any confirmation because the file was changed. And in the same way, we can bind many different commands to keyboard shortcuts that use leader key. Link to the repository with this configuration file will be, as always, in the video description. In VS Code, we can fold and unfold certain regions. I have a keyboard shortcut assigned to the folding action, which is command opening square bracket in my case. But as we're gonna navigate up and down by using Vim motion keys, when we're gonna cross these folded regions, they will be automatically opened, which is not the behavior I like. So let's try to fix this in this lesson. Thankfully, it is pretty easy to fix. We just have to add a couple of additional bindings in Vim configuration file. Let's add them right here and say that these bindings will be responsible for skipping folded regions. Both of these bindings will only work in the normal mode. The first one will remap sequence of keys G and J. It will simply act as a K key. In my case, the K key is responsible to navigate down. And another mapping is pretty similar. Here we're saying that the sequence of letters G and K will be used when we're gonna press key L. In my case, key L is used to navigate up. I'm using K and L keys in here because I have redefined default motion keys. But if you haven't redefined any default motion keys, you would have to use in here J and K like so. Let's also mention in here that the first command is responsible for navigating down and the second one for navigating up. Next, by default Vim clipboard is not in sync with the system clipboard. And that means if I'm going to copy anything by using Vim shortcuts, for example, let's copy this line by pressing YY, and then if I'm gonna open up any other application, for example terminal, and try to paste text from the standard clipboard, as we can see we didn't get that text we have just copied from Vim. And in the same way, if I'll try to copy anything outside of VS Code and paste it in VS Code by using default Vim key to paste, which is P, in this case we also do not get the text we have just copied. So I'm going to sync system clipboard with the Vim clipboard by adding another setting right here. The setting that we need in this case is called clipboard, and we have to assign value unnamed plus, like this, which is going to sync system clipboard with the Vim clipboard. So after reloading VS Code, let's once again copy the current line by pressing YY and then paste this line in the terminal. And this time we got the copied line. And vice versa, if we're gonna copy this word code by pressing Command C and paste it inside VS Code by using P, we got the copied text. So the system clipboard is now in sync with Vim clipboard. The next thing we're going to do is to configure the search, which is used in Vim. To open up the search, we can press /, and now let's try to find word clipboard. As we can see, the search found only 2 matches, and it didn't include the second clipboard word, because that word uses capital letter, which means by default Vim search is case sensitive, but I would like to use case insensitive search. So I'm going to add another setting, which is ignore case, and assign value true, which is going to make the search case insensitive. So now after reloading VS Code, let's search for the word clipboard once again, and this time we have 3 matches, including the second one, which contains capital letter. But in addition to that, I would like to run case insensitive search if all letters in my search query will be lowercased. But if at least one letter will be uppercased, I would like to run case sensitive search. Currently it doesn't work, as we can see if I'm using the first capital letter, it still found all 3 words. So I'm gonna make it clear what the next setting will be responsible for and say that it is going to disable ignore case option if at least one letter in the search query will be capital. And we're going to use smart case setting and assign value true. And this way, after reloading VS Code, if we're gonna try to run the search and use at least one capital letter in our search query, as we can see the search was case sensitive, hence only one word clipboard was found that contains capital letter. So that's it for this lesson. Let's continue in the next one. Let's see how we can work with multiple cursors by using VSCode Neovim extension. So to be able to quickly add multiple cursors at the beginning of each selected line, we can firstly select some text, and then by pressing MI, we're gonna get caret at the beginning of every line, as we can see. And there is also a way to add multiple carets at the end of every selected line. For this, we have to select certain region and then press MA. This works not only in visual line mode, but also in visual block mode. To activate visual block mode in Vim, we have to press Ctrl V Then select region of the text, and by pressing MY, we're gonna get caret at the beginning of every line of our selection. And as you may have already guessed, it also works to add multiple carets at the end of each selected line when using visual block mode. Let's talk about the next helpful shortcut, which is G and H. This shortcut is going to open up quick documentation of the symbol under the cursor. Usually, to open up this quick documentation, we have to hover over on the particular symbol, but using this shortcut is much faster, and we also don't need to move our hand away from keyboard. There is also another keyboard shortcut which is going to do the same, and this shortcut is Shift-K, which also opens up quick documentation. But if we're gonna press Shift-K once again, when quick documentation is already visible, it is going to put the focus on this documentation, and in here we can use Vim motion keys to scroll up and down, or left and right. So once again, let's repeat these shortcuts. To open up quick documentation, we have to put the cursor on the corresponding symbol and then press Shift-K. And once this documentation is open, to move the focus inside this documentation to be able to scroll it, we have to press Shift-K once again. And by the way, while having focus on this documentation, we can also use key G to go to the very beginning of this documentation, or Shift-G to go to the very end. The same way how it works in a file, to go to the beginning of the file or end of the file. So as with other keyboard shortcuts, these shortcuts are pretty useful and allow us to quickly look into documentation without having to move our hand away from keyboard. Let's continue learning about VSCode Neovim extension in the next lesson. Besides applying formatting to the whole file at once, we can also apply formatting to the selected regions, and to do so we just have to select certain region and then press equal sign. And as we can see, selected region was formatted. But of course, in order for this to work, we firstly have to set up default formatter in VS Code settings by using the following configuration option called default formatter. So once again, to format certain region in the code, we have to select this region and then press equal sign. Another useful keyboard shortcut allows us to go to the definition of the particular element. For example, I would like to quickly navigate to the place where this generate activity select options function is defined. To do so, I have to position my cursor above this method name and then press GD. And we have jumped to the place where it is declared. But if we're gonna put our cursor above the function name at the place where this function is declared, like in here, and press GD, in this case we're gonna get such inline editor where we see all the places where this function is currently being used. And by the way, we can navigate through this list of references by using Vim motion keys to go up and down. But since I have redefined default Vim motion keys to navigate up and down, in my case I have to press K to go down and L to go up instead of J and K. And by the way, the code needed to redefine these keys will be in the repository of this playlist, link to which will be in this video description. And also, to quickly move the focus from the left side of this editor to the right side and vice versa, we can press Tab. Also, to be able to quickly open up this inline editor with all the references of the particular element, we can position the cursor above the element and then press G, Shift, H. And we're also gonna get such editor with all the references of this element. So in here, to open up folded regions, we can press either letter O or Enter. And to close this editor, we just have to press Escape. Another useful shortcut allows us to navigate between currently opened files. So I'm gonna open up a couple of files right here, and then to go to the next open file, I have to press GT. And to go to the previous open file, I have to press G, Shift, T. Every time I'm going to press one of these keyboard shortcuts, I'm going to navigate either forward or backward between open files. Let's keep reviewing VSCode Neovim extension in the next lesson. Now let's see how we can quickly navigate around in the File Explorer. I have bound Command B to open up sidebar and Command H to put the focus on the File Explorer. And once the focus has been on the File Explorer, I can use Vim motion keys to navigate around in this Explorer. By default, to go down we have to press J, and to go up we have to press K. But once again, I have redefined default Vim motion keys, so for me, I have to press K to go down and L to go up. And to quickly jump to the beginning of the File Explorer, we have to press G twice. Or to go to the very bottom of this Explorer, we have to press Shift G. To open up selected folders in the File Explorer, we have to press either O or Enter. But if we're gonna press Enter while having some file selected, we're gonna open up this file. We can also search for files in this panel, so to open up the search, we need to press slash and then search for a particular folder or file. And after pressing Enter, the found folder or the file will be selected, so we can press Enter to open it up. And finally, to close the search, we just have to press Escape. So in this lesson, we have explored how we can quickly navigate around in the File Explorer by using Vim bindings. In the previous lesson, we have reviewed keyboard shortcuts that allow us to quickly navigate in the File Explorer. And in addition to those keyboard shortcuts, in this lesson, we're going to review a couple of more shortcuts that allow us to interact with the File Explorer. So the first shortcut is letter R, which is responsible for renaming currently active file. After we rename the file, we just have to press Enter to accept this change. Next, if we press D, it is going to show us the confirmation to remove the file. So to cancel this confirmation, let's press Escape. Or if we want to confirm, we have to press Enter. Next, key Y allows us to copy selected files. For example, I would like to copy icons.ts, so I position selection on this file, then press Y, and then navigate to the folder I would like to copy this file into. So to paste just copied file, we have to press P, and as we can see, the file was copied. So let's remove this duplicate by pressing D and confirming our action by pressing Enter. And check another shortcut. So if we'll press X, instead of copying, it is going to cut the file, so we can navigate to another place, and in the same way, paste this file by pressing P. Next one, besides opening file from the File Explorer in the main window, we can also open it up in the new split. For this, instead of pressing Enter, we need to press V. And as we can see, the new split was created. Let's close this additional split and review a couple more shortcuts. So to quickly create new file in the File Explorer, we have to press A, then assign name to the newly created file and press Enter. Or Escape if we'd like to discard file creation. Now let's remove newly created file in the File Explorer by pressing letter D and confirming this action by pressing Enter. In addition to files, we can also create folders. To do so, we need to press Shift A. I'm going to remove this newly created folder with the name utils by pressing D. And the last shortcut we're going to review in this lesson allows us to put the focus on the currently selected file in the File Explorer. So for example, we have scrolled in the sidebar somewhere where currently active file is not visible anymore, and to quickly put the focus on the currently selected file, we need to press Shift R. And as we can see, currently selected file, which is constants.ts, becomes visible in the File Explorer again. And at this point, we have already reviewed all the features of VSCode Neovim extension that I use the most. So hopefully some of these shortcuts were helpful to you, and you will integrate them into your workflow. Link to the repository of this playlist will be in the video description.